So, you read the title. This is a follow-up to the last trading discussion. Since I did talk to a couple traders in TQ and they were saying a couple things that I could improve on. Or rather, not improve on, but talk a little bit more about. Because there are a couple things I missed. I did talk about it with them a bit, so I do have a list here of things I do want to talk about. Blue or worse collectibles. Basically, any collects from any dungeon that's pirate to NL, not including boss raids. I could also talk about that. But those collectibles, if they are blue, they are significantly worse value. Obviously, but to really get the sense of scale, if you trade somebody for purple collectibles, you will not be able to give them blues. It's because people do not want blue collectibles. Blue collectibles have no value. No value is inaccurate, but some people, like, if you want to give them blues for purple, it might be like it depends on the trader. We'll talk about a bit more about the depending on trader thing in a bit. But it usually ranges from anywhere from like 3 to 5 blues for a single purple. That's not even in the newer dungeons. That's just like... I'm gonna turn that down a bit. Yeah, there we go. That's just like, broadly speaking. It's like a 3 to 1 or 5 to 1 ratio depending on who you find. Most people, yeah, no, they're not gonna want blue collects. And especially greens and grays, at that point, if you drop a green collect, it's as good as a gray weapon when it comes to any half-competent trader. That's because people don't like them. Not even because they don't like them, it's just because they're not rare. Their demand is low, exceedingly low, even to the most desperate of traders. And their quantity or their rarity, they're not rare. You're more likely to drop a blue collect than a purple, that's obvious, but way more likely to drop a purple. It's really, really unlikely. The one thing that makes purple collectibles so good is their drop rate. That is what makes them rare. If you do the math, I did the math because I did actually like to check this out. But I did math, and the math is the percentage rate of dropping purple collectibles. This applies to basically every single dungeon. But the drop rate of a purple collectible is 1 in 0. What's it called? No, it's like 1 in 0.00086, I think. So that's like 1 in 2,000, 1 in 1,200. I think that calculation might have been wrong. It might be something more like 0.086, which might be a bit more accurate. But yeah, blue collects are just significantly more common, so they're significantly less value. If you drop a blue collect, don't write it off, but you're most likely not going to get an offer you would expect for it. And please, please, for the love of God, do not try to trade blue collectibles for a leg spell. When it comes to leg spells, not only are purple collects basically an essential unless you're giving other items, but they're also like, you can't. Because if you really wanted to give only blue collects for an EIF to the most desperate of trader, they'd probably want more than 30. Because leg spells are like 8, depending on trader. Again, we'll talk about that. It's like 8 to 10, sometimes 7. It's more like 8 to 10 purple collects for a leg spell. So on the worst, if you give 3 blue collects for a purple, that's 24. If you don't, and you take 10 and you have to give 5, that's 50. That's not good. So don't try to trade blue collects for that. The most you can do is just try to trade them, just try to upgrade. Once you get to purple collects, you're good. then you can start to trade them for leg spells if you need one. So yeah, collectibles that are blue or worse, bad. The only exception to this is Gildan Scale. Gildan Scale blue pieces are still very good. Wow, okay. Yeah, they're still very good. But if it's Val, it's not worth anything. And Val being okay actually does lead into a pretty nice transition into, I wanted to talk a bit about value of NL items. Now, obviously, NL is no longer the most recent dungeon. So that means most of the items are now old? It's in a weird place because people do not value Valhalla to the same range that Eldenbark was when NL came out. When NL came out, Eldenbark wasn't garbage, it just became purple collectibles and old legendaries immediately. NL's not, that didn't happen for NL. Because for some reason, it just didn't do that. Some of the people will, like, I will still often get DMs of people asking me, will you take like a blue Valhalla set or a purple Valhalla, like a low pot purple Valhalla set, and like a medium pot legendary for a leg spell. And that's because people still think it's good. And while I can understand why some people might actually think it's pretty good, it's not. Please, it could be a bit biased on me to say like I'm just sick of people asking for that offer, but Purple Valhalla is not the newest dungeon collect anymore. So since it's not the newest, it's now an old collect. Which there is no such thing as an old collect, it's just purple collect. So yes, Mjolnirs and Gungnir's are old legs now. And purple collects are now just purple collects. Like Purple Valhalla is still Purple Valhalla. It's just now way worse. It's purple collects now. The only exception is God Pots, which I would talk a lot. I would talk about God Pots, but I only own one, and I do not know value. I don't know their values. That would probably be more suited for a person who's just better at God Pots. Same with OGs. Like, I would talk about them, but I don't know them. I don't own. I own one. Sorry, I own two actually decent OGs. Orbital. What's it called? Like, I mean decent. I mean like they're okay, I guess. Two Orbital. What's it called? Orbital OG. What's that called? Orbital Leg OG. Great Tribal War Armor. Sorry, yeah, Great Tribal War Armor OG. And then what's it called? And then I own a 755, obviously. But yeah, I'm not the best person for talking about OGs and God Pots. But honestly, when it comes to like demand, no one's really looking for Valhalla right now, and I don't mean that in like a mean way. Like, I don't mean that like nobody wants Valhalla. People want Valhalla, but people don't want it for what a typical normal purple collectible gets. That's because purple collectible, it is an old purple collectible now, just as Eldenbark was, and just as Triton was, just as LK became. Like, they all became they all became just normal purple collectibles. So NL's eventually gonna fall into that range. Demand about purple collectibles. Since we're already talking about collectibles demand, yeah, some collectibles have priority. When I mean priority, I mean if somebody has, like, you're giving leg spell and you'll give you'll give like 8 of any purple collectible for a leg spell, these, like, if they have the choice, they'll probably choose these because these are just good. When it comes to high priority, usually it's actually older, not the newer ones. To state the absolute worst of the worst, LK. Lava King is the worst purple collectible. It's not, like, to the point, it's not even close how bad they are. because it is really bad. It is valued as half of a purple collectible, even though it is just as rare as a normal purple collect. It's so common that it's so like everyone has it because Volcanic Chambers was around for the longest time, so everyone had it. So it was so common that there was literally no point. It was insanely common. Everyone had it. It's weird. LK is definitely the worst, and if people try to trade you LK, decline it. It's not good. Unless they're giving you like 3+ purple LK pieces, then it's maybe worth it. When it comes to the next worst, it's probably another high. So I would either say it's not Elden Bark. It's either Val or maybe Triton. Because from what I've heard, people really like when it comes to I wouldn't even say Val is bad demand in the typical sense. Garbage. Because it's not bad. It's just it's not valued the right way yet. But you can't trade it for a purple collectible. But you can trade it for good stuff, I guess. Like, I don't really know what it gets because I don't know what it's doing. It's in a really weird spot. But if I personally had to say the next worst collect, it would probably be Pirate. And I'm not saying Pirate collects are bad, it's just lack of a worse choice. LK is just that bad. Yeah, LK will never be a better. I'm sorry, but LK will absolutely never be a better collectible. As much as I want it to be, because LK actually looks kind of cool in my opinion, but it will never happen. Um, next, okay, this is probably like, um, most low collects are actually pretty good. So like canals, like when it comes to if I instead had to put them in a tiering system rather than this is better than this, I would probably put Underworld, Samurai, Canals in the same tier. Well, I'd also add Steampunk to this tier and say those are pretty good. But if I had to list actual like really high demand collects, Ghastly Harbor, Mythical Armor. Not only does it look super nice, biased opinion, don't take that as actual value, but they're also really high demand. Um, Alien Armor. Alien Armor is actually pretty good. It's okay. It's like if somebody adds it to, if somebody puts it as a purple collect, you're never going to be complaining about it. But it's not like if you could choose anything, you wouldn't choose Alien. It's good, but it's not like your first pick. My first pick would obviously be Mythical Armor. I love a Mythical Armor. Just remember, these demands do not apply. Oh wow. These values do not apply if it is a blue or green collect, or even a gray. Doesn't matter. If it is a green, if it isn't purple, these values don't apply. If it is purple, they do. Oh wait, no, I did my math wrong. Hold on. I did do some math wrong. The drop rates of purple collects. It is not 0.00086. That's not right. Hold on. Yep. 0.084, which is a 1 in 2000. Well, sorry, not 1 in 2000. It's about a 1 in 1,200. So yeah, I accidentally did my math a bit wrong. It's actually, it's 0, what's it called? It's 0.084. Which is actually much better odds, but it's still not good odds. That's why purple collects are rare, is their drop rate not being high. What else? So, King's Castle Underworld Collect. So those are actually pretty good. Unless they're bad pot, people are usually gonna be fine with them. If you want a good collectible to run for, I would suggest either Samurai or maybe probably Steampunk. Steampunk's really fast. The dungeon completes really quickly. Same with OO, but Orbital is a bit weird. Not for any weird reason, it's just a bit strange. That's enough about demands of purple collectibles. I don't know gods or OGs, so I can't do that. I did mention... Okay, so pirate items. One trader specifically wanted me to talk a bit more about pirate legs because I kind of trashed them. When I mean trash them, I talked about them in a negative light. And yes, depending on the variant, pirate legs can be good. Now, I don't know much about OGs, but the level 7, what's it called? A pirate legendary that has a level requirement of level 71 is actually pretty good. And depending on the pot, pirate legendaries can be insanely pricey. Their collectibles can go up to 1591, which is god and is actually worth quite a bit. Legendaries can go up to 7303. Those are also worth a lot. Those are considered gods. But honestly, as much as he wants me to boost them, a high god in like Underworld / Samurai will always be better than a 7303. Even if 7303 isn't bad, it's just, oh wow. It's just okay. Like, they're good. They can be very good. But they're just like, if you want to, you can. They're pretty good, but they are situationally good. Like, a good pot, a 7303 can't afford something like a high 82,000.3 Samurai, by the way. Or like a high 760, like 5, which is Steampunk. They can't afford those. That's from what I think, at least. I guess I could talk about... Oh yeah, leg spells. I think I talked about it last video. But yeah, I need to talk about leg spell values a bit. Because I need to like... I just need to restate the pain that is people offering for leg spells. Okay. Legendaries. They're nice, right? They cannot. I cannot stress this. They cannot. These funny little leg spells. They cannot. Those legs. Sorry. They can't get leg spells. Legendary spells are way, way, way more expensive. If I had to put on a sense of scale, as I said in last video, I think I said anywhere from 60 to 120. But honestly, if you're lucky, you don't even have to go above like 80. But still, a couple legendaries won't get you it. If you want to trade just old legs, you're gonna need to trade at least like 60 plus. When it comes to purple collectibles, yes, purple collectibles can actually pretty easily get a leg spell, but you're gonna need to give at least 8 for most traders. If you find a desperate trader, you could probably give 7 or maybe 6, but that's kind of rare. And then there's blue collectibles. No, just don't even try. The best you can do with those blue collectibles is turn them into legendaries, so you could trade those legendaries for purple collects. Because legendaries, while not being very good, are probably still better than blue collectibles. This also applies to green and gray, but if you ask for legendaries and people show you green or gray collectibles, they will actually just laugh at you. And I don't mean that in a rude way, it's just people don't like green or gray collectibles. Blues are kind of hard to find someone who actually likes them, and purples, well, purples are just good. The only other thing I could think you could actually give for leg spells is GS items. GS values are very strange right now as they're constantly changing because the dungeon just came out. But generally, I would say you would at least need a blue pot. Like you would need like a blue piece, maybe. So yeah, you'd probably need like a blue piece to get a you probably need like a blue piece to get a leg spell. A green set used to cut it, but a green set just kind of doesn't cut it anymore. It might on a desperate trader who doesn't have anything from the new dungeon, but most likely you're not going to get it. And maybe OGs, but when it comes to OGs, most of all OGs except for that one can kind of consistently get leg spells. Like Skull Flames. Skull Flames can't get crap. Skull Flames isn't even worth a legendary. It's really, really, really bad. Never trade for it. Some people might give you it because they want to hoard them, but Skull Flames is just, it's not good. But like anything above, like anything that's just better than like gray tribal armor can usually get a leg spell. So yeah, most of the time OGs and absolutely 100% God Pots can get better than leg spells. Probably the last thing I want to talk about is just DQ's trading system. When I mean DQ's trading system, I'm not talking about the literal trade system, I'm talking about how people look at values. Because of how values work, they're not quite the same. When I mean they're not quite the same, I mean everything's not set in stone. If you look at stuff like MM2 or Assassin, you can find value lists that give you exact values of things. Like Sears 1, Darkbringer's like 125. I don't know their values or whatever. I just know like Sears 1 or whatever. But the one thing I do know is for, what is it? This game, it doesn't work like that. There's no baseline, so most of the trades are actually more opinion based. There's no de facto values to go off of. So if you say that your values are correct, they're probably correct to you, but there's going to be somebody who disagrees. They aren't going to disagree with you because they dislike you. I mean, not all the time. DQ is kind of a funny game with that sometimes. But most of the time, it's just like, yeah. The values aren't set in stone, so like if you say this is the de facto value of something, most people might believe you, but not everyone's gonna do that. Like, a leg spell can get a really, really low pot GS leg. Like, if you drop a 1/4/1, yeah, you can probably trade a 1/4/1 for a leg spell. Most people will do that, but there's that one person who won't, and that's because values are more opinion based. So if you're mad at somebody because their trades are stupid, it's probably just because their opinions on what is valued at what is kind of different. That's like the biggest rule of thumb, especially for leg spells, because you will practically never see people asking for the same thing for leg spells, whether they're trading it or they're trading for it. Some people will give tons of I mean tons, I mean like 4 old legs and blue Val. Some people will give like 6 or 7 purple Culex. Some people might give a low pot all. Um, yeah, it's just everyone will give different things for stuff like that, but their value is like kind of the same. 6 to 7 purple collectibles and an alt are about the same, but then the people who are like, what about the people who are given the blue Val? That's not the same. Yeah, that's because people think Val is still good, and that's like one of the major reasons of the video. I kind of like, I'm not trying to kill Val, just blue collects in general. Not even kill them, just like I'm a bit sick of getting people offering me blue or worse collects when I specifically ask for purples. So call it a bias reasoning, but I'm just sick of it. So this video wasn't specifically just to call out all the people who are doing that, but I just want people to know how they actually are and why people say no to your offers rather than they just say no because they don't know values. No one knows values because there's no de facto value list. You can't say this person's like, to say someone's bad at values is kind of wrong. You can never really say someone's dumb at trading. They just have a wildly different trading thought than you. But usually it's biased, so it's there. You can call their trading unreasonable though, because you could call their trading biased. In the case scenarios where someone has an EIR, they have an EIR and you offer EIF, and like major ads, like several purple collects to the point where you're almost giving 2 leg spells, and they say no, they have a largely disagreeable, They have a largely disagreeable trade thought that's probably biased towards the fact that they don't want to trade EIR. To the point where if you find someone with a 147, like let's just say they have a mage legendary 1471331, let's just say that you offer them a 141-332 or whatever, sorry, 330, and ads, they'll probably say no because they're biased towards their legendary because they dropped it. It's trading opinions. It's weird. You will never find people who find things to be the same value. Like, no one will ever have the same trade thoughts. Some people value stuff more than others. Like, personally, old legendaries don't mean much to me. That's because they're by the name old legendaries. They aren't very good. They have a place in trading. It's just that place isn't something I go for. I don't trade for old legendaries, nor do I even trade my own. I usually just give them away because I don't care about them. Call it a value loss, I don't really care because that's not the purpose of them. That's not my purpose for them. Garbage, wow. I got a war set. But yeah, I just generally don't. My trading is strictly off for old legs, and that's for some other people. Some people really don't want to trade for purple Culex. Some people don't want to trade for GS items. Also me. Some people don't want to trade for OGs. You know, it varies. You just have to be. To say you have to be right is incorrect. I know that's not OG. That's nice. I can. Oh my god. Yeah, I run another I know that is an OG because of how actual OG looks. It doesn't look like that, I can tell you that. Oh my god, I'm getting lag. OGs aren't something I could talk about much. They are strange. Builder quest. What else could I talk about? Because alts. I did not talk about alts. God dang it. I should have mentioned that during NL, but it doesn't matter. Alts are kind of in a weird. They're not in a weird spot. That to say that would be wrong. What they really are is just kind of misplaced. I own 3, all Leviathans. And what makes them so weird? It's because they're just like, again, it's opinion based on all values, but like for this case, there's only really 2 opinions that I've seen. Some are less than others, but most are dominant to the same thing. Either people value them as a little less than a leg spell or a little more than a leg spell. I've personally, I think they're worth a little more depending on their pot. If it's like a 7-5 or a 7, I think a 7-5 gets a little less than a leg spell. 7-6 to like a low 7-7 gets about the same. While anything 78 plus could get a little more. Then anything 79 plus up to, well, 80s can obviously get way more. I missed. Than a leg spell. And why is that? Well, that's because alts are part of NL. They're also in a weird trading spot because, sure, they're good, but no one really knows where to place them. It's because they're strange. They're kind of just like odd ones out from their group. Sometimes they're worth more, sometimes they're worth less. It just depends on pot. Personally, I think alts are worth, yeah, I said my personal opinions. They're just like either slightly better, slightly worse. Some people will ask for multiple alts for for a single leg spell. Never do that. Some people will probably give you multiple alts for a leg spell. Probably do that. That's really good. It's all over the place. Wow. Well, I mean, I don't actually know. I could talk about other things like scamming and whatnot. Don't scam, and they could probably teach how to look out for scammers. But I guess I could teach you how to look for god pots, because god pots are some of the most valuable items in the game. When I mean it like a random steampunk legendary that happens to have one of the best bases seen could probably be worth more than 50 legendary spells. A single one of those legendaries could be worth more than my entire freaking inventory and my kidney or whatever. They could just be worth an insane amount because of how good they are. But how do I know when I have one? Well, let's see. The best way to look is there are like if you go to DQ General and you ask for a god pot list, you'll probably get it. Another way you could look is you just gotta pay attention to bases. So I'm just gonna list every single god pot. Armor, I'm not gonna list Guardian because that would just actually no, I'm gonna list Guardian. Why not? To list every god pot, probably gonna have to be a bit more depth. For Pirate Islands, I said 7303 was the maximum possible, but 7300, anything above, is still considered a god pot. for the legendary. For the armor, I'm talking about the War and the Mage, it's 1591. 1590, one off, is not considered God. That's near God, which is still worth quite a lot, but it's not as much as a God. For Guardian armor, it's anything that's above 9,000 HP. Rule, if you drop a Guardian Collect, always upgrade it in HP, because if it is a God pot, you will get value for it. For King's Castle, any legendary that is above 2300, specifically 23610. Anything above that is a god. For the armor, it's anything above 3870. For the Guardian, it's anything above 19900 or 19,900. Underworld, 39850, 3900, 850 is for legendaries. 6,600 plus for armor, and 38,800 for Guardian armor. Samurai is 82,300 for legendaries, 12,150 for armors, 82,400 for the Guardian Collect. Don't get that confused with the legendary. The Canals, it is a legendary that is above 174,100. Anything above that is a god. Or anything of that or above is a god. 2,300 flat armor is considered god. And Canals, for some reason, the helmet has a higher base pot, so it has a higher pot, or a higher god pot by a significant margin than the chest. So the helmet is 192,800, while the chest plate is only 180,300. For Ghastly Harbor, any legendary that is above 367,000 is a god pot. For armors, anything that's above 47,100, I think. Yeah, I was not paying attention. 47,100 is god, and for collectible, it's 385,000 is considered a god. Steampunk, any legendary that is above 760,000 is a god. For armor, anything above 94,100 is a god pot, and any guardian armor above 900,000 is god. Now, the one thing to know about gods is that Guardian Collect gods are actually worth less than DPS gods, but they aren't worthless. So a Guardian Collect that is a god pot is still worth something. Not as much as a DPS, but it's still worth quite a bit. Boss raids, you would think since boss raids doesn't actually have a collectible armor, it wouldn't be good, but armors are actually worth something, surprisingly, I know. But for boss raids, any what's it called? Any legendary above 2.02 million or 2,020,000 is god for legendaries. Anything above 236,000 is armor god, and anything above 354. Wait, no. Yes, anything above 3.54 million is considered god. I think. Yeah, that's 3.54 million. For Orbital Outpost legendaries, I don't know how the OGs are scaled, but for non-OGs, 4138 or 4,138,000 is considered god. For armors, it's anything above 460,000, and for Guardian, it's anything above 7.83 million. Volcanic Chambers, most of these, even if you drop these, they're usually not going to be good, but any collectible, any legendary that is 8448, anything above that is a god. or anything of or above that is God. For armors, anything that is 933, 9 point, I think that's 933. Yeah, anything that's 933,000. Anything above that is God. And for Guardian armor, it's 100. Is that 192 million? No, that's 19.25 million. Anything above, again, God. Aquatic Temple, any legendary that is above 1.752 million. So 1,752,000. That is God. I think that's 17. No, wait. No, yeah, that's 17. 17 million. 17,520,000. Armor, anything that is above 1.86 million is Armor God. Any Guardian armor that is for 45,500,000, anything above that, God. And Enchanted for EF or Enchanted Forest, any legendary that's above 36,310,000, God. Any armor that is above 3.75 million, that's God. And any armor that is above 114,250,000, that is God. For Northern Lands, any legendary that is above 74,500,000 is a God pot. And for armor, anything that is above 7.54 million, that is a God pot. I own a 755. That's because it is a high god, a very high god. It's actually not a high god, but a very high god is like a little bit higher. But it is a high god. Garbage. For armor, Guardian, it's 271,750,000. And GS gods, those aren't really. Those are kind of in their own tier because they're a bit different. They're worth like a lot. Like they're insane how much they're worth. So yeah, I could talk about bases, but if you go onto the wiki, you can find ranges. Sorry. You can find the ranges of anything from a rev god to a god. But I was just listing the normal. I was just listing gods in case you don't want to go on the wiki for whatever reason. And if you have a god, don't until you learn a bit more about values, don't trade it because you can get some really good offers. You might get insanely lowballed and only get offered like an EIF or two. Or you might get an insane offer. Like several low gods and then like leg spell ads or whatever. I don't know what is. I'm not entirely sure what values of the stuff is. It's because values are strange. Opinion-based values. Could talk about a bit more, but I'm a bit knowledgeless, so that's pretty much all I've got. So I'm going to let the rest of this run play out because I'm not only hitting 211, but just because people might ask me what you get. GG's on 212. So yeah, I'm just gonna let the rest of this play out. If you listen to the end, you are a mad lad, and I respect you for that. Because this is and I thought a 42-minute discussion was crazy. This is almost a 45-minute. Okay, well, thanks for listening. If you do want to hear more values, like some people have suggested this be a podcast. That sounds cool, and I could probably try that. But I want your guys' advice. Do you want me to try something like a podcast? Do you want me to like go on this every so often and do a brief overview of just talk about values, do some runs, you know, that all that jazz? I could if you want me to. Just leave about it in the comments because I probably can. Winter break is fast approaching, so I have overabundance of time soon. I could do that. And also, yeah, if you do want to hear me do another discussion about certain things, I'm like, obviously, I could make another discussion and go into depth about God Pots, the numerous amounts of OGs, whatnot. But I don't know those, so I'd have to learn those. If you want me to learn those and do a discussion on them, I can. That would depend, but yeah. If you just want to, if you just want to see any advice on videos, like what type of content you want to do, carry streams, um, just streams where I run this dungeon. You want me to host my own raids, like anything, honestly, I can do. As long as it isn't, don't ask me to carry in insane dungeons, please, for the love of God. I'm sorry, but I shed a tear every time someone asks me to carry them in an insane dungeon. And I don't say that because I'm trying to be rude, I'm just saying I cry because, ugh, insane dungeons. Yeah, I'll let this boss play out. Thanks for watching.